So what is IEEE? IEEE is the world's largest technical professional society dealing with all kind of research activities and the developmental activities. Here the just a minute. The mission and the vision statement of IEEE are being given here. So IEEE mission is to foster the technological innovation and excellence. And the vision statement is the IEEE should be essential to the global technical community and to the technical professionals everywhere, and universally recognized for the contribution of technology and of technical professionals in improving global conditions. And there are more than 45 IEEE societies. Few of them are listed here, covering all from aerospace to antennas to broadcast, circuits, directors, education, till vehicular technological society. Or think of any aspect of the engineering, and that is being covered by one of the societies in IEEE. So nobody is left out, and all can contribute towards IEEE, publish their work, get recognition, and they can become member of the particular society. Now, like we are belonging to the IEEE AP and MTT society, and all of you are, I hope, members of the society. If you are not, please become. So, what is authorship all about? So, first of all, authorship should be about sharing your knowledge. Whatever you have learned, you should not keep it to yourself. Share it with your peers, share it with your colleagues, share it with the other workers or researchers who are working in a similar area. Then next, authorship is about the feedback. You are doing your work, but you're not sharing it, so you're not getting any positive or negative feedbacks from the other people who are working. So who can suggest you how to improve your work, or if you have done a very good job, how it can be further enhanced. So that feedback is very necessary for the continual improvement of your work. So that is the second point. Then upgradation. So upgradation, like partially I've already covered, upgradation means whatever work you have done, how to upgrade it further, how to keep enhancing your work, how to be useful to the society. That is upgradation. So that is the third feature of the authorship. Then comes prestige and recognition. Definitely, when you've done a good work, it gets published, you get some recognition. It becomes a prestigious for you. People start recognizing about your work, your potential. Then assessment, you can self-assess, even your establishment or industry or academia, wherever you are, they can assess you based on your work published. Then if there's some student, then obviously student will get help, or it will the work published will be beneficial for his degree or program, whatever he is taking care of. Then another important part is authorship spurs the intellectual debate within yourself. You are doing your work, but you're not writing it, not you're not penning it. So unless you ink it, you start writing, you will not be able to assess yourself. You should be able to assess yourself also, like whether I have done something, whether I have left this, whether I've covered all the aspects. Okay, I'm doing some antenna, but whether this antenna is covering the requirements, what are actually required by the industry or the whatever field you're catering to, or whatever your aim or final goal is. So that is for the intellectual debate within yourself when you start writing it. Unless you write it, unless you document it, you cannot assess your work yourself. So that is also very important. Before the other people assess, you should assess your work yourself. Then collaborate. When you do the work, you publish it so other people know who are working in the same field or area, okay, that you are also there. So they may collaborate with you. You may collaborate with you. The collaboration always makes the team stronger. It improves the quality of your work output. It improves the quality of your research. So collaboration is very important, and collaboration can only happen when you author some of your work in some reputed journals or conferences. Then another important thing is you're providing a platform for community to build upon your ideas. You should not keep your ideas up to yourself. You should share your ideas in the community so that other people can build upon your ideas further, because there's always a human limitation to you for everyone, how much they can work. So that is always limited. You have many restrictions, many hurdles, so but other people can help you out. They can enhance your work further. Then progression. So all this authorship makes you progressive in your life. So these are the important aspects or features of the authorship which you should realize and try to author whatever work you have done in the good reputed journals, present them in the conferences. Now, what are the types of publication? So now, since we're talking about the IEEE, so IEEE has got these various type of publications. So first one is the conferences. We have transactions. We have short communications. We have review magazines where you can publish your review articles, and we have letters. So these are the few types of publication what IEEE has, and each society has its these all of these are few of these publications in which you can publish your work. Now, what are these the different scopes of these different types of publication I'll be discussing next. So just to tell you that IEEE has got more than 190 publications and more than 1500 plus conferences. So you have got a lot of scope to publish in your relevant area. Now, conferences, what is the scope of the conference? So conference, you can publish your ongoing research results. So you are doing into midst or middle of some research work, you find some interesting results which you want to share with the others. And the aim of that should be that you should get some feedback from the other people who are working in this area and who can guide you. Okay, you're doing a good work or you're lagging some points which you should ponder about. So you'll get a very positive interaction when you publish in conferences. And that is the reason that in conferences of always it is mandatory to present in person. Whoever is the author or one of the authors should go and present the work. That is a main motive of a conference. Main motive is to discuss the work, to present it before the community and have a very good discussion. So that is the scope of the conference. So you can publish your results in the middle of your research as well, which are not completed, and you can say, okay, we are in the middle of this research. These are the important findings, what we observed, and we are going to further work on this. That is the scope of the conference. The next is a journal. A journal basically publish your concluded research work with final finding, methodology, conclusions, etc. So once your work is completed, your research is over, you have concluded some phenomena or some mathematical model or some experiments, then those find the place in journals. So you should know what work can be published in conference, what work can be published in journals. Now, when we come to the letters or communications, they publish significant results only with conclusion and finding in very short. So if you talk in the term of pages, so conferences usually 4 to 6 pages. Journals can be somewhere from 8 to 12 pages. Letters are usually 1 or 2 pages only. Then we come to the magazines. Magazines, we have little bit liberty on the pages. You can go like around 12 pages or 15 pages also. And in the magazine, you can publish a review of certain technologies, trends, or methodologies developed by you, certain ideas, general ideas also. So that those kind of things find their place in magazines. So this is the different scope of different type of publications which you should know before start writing. Okay, I am going to write for a conference, whether I'm going to write for a journal or a letter or magazine, you should be well aware of that. Then only your chances of success improves. Okay. Now, what is a peer review? Like I've shown here, you present a paper to your peer. Now, who's a peer? Peer is somebody who's at your level or having more experience than you in your area, who is much more experienced, who has got much more publications, who can correctly analyze what you're presenting. So those form the part of the peer. Okay. So it could be a professor, it could be a professor from other university, it could be somebody experienced from industry, somebody from academia, somebody retired who has devoted his life to your area of work or area of expertise. So those are all peer. So peer review. Now you have submit my paper. The person say the paper draft you submitted to me is completely unacceptable. Why? Why unacceptable? He can say your writing is terrible. Just look at the sentence here. It is. He cannot make out anything. Okay. But then he says, okay, no, I actually read it, it's not that bad. So next time try to be good. The first time I skim over your work. So that is the first thing you people should understand. Whatever you're writing should make sense. It should be comprehensible. Otherwise, peers have got so many articles to review. I hope in a month they have to review more than 100 articles. So they will just throw away your publication if it is not making any comprehension. It is not comprehensible. So that is a very important thing about the peer review, which you should understand while you're writing a paper. Then I'll focus how to write a paper. Now I can understand. I have also gone through. I was also a student once, and I also gone through this cycle. I used to bang my head. Okay, how can I write? How can I write? How shall I start? I understand this is everyone's problem. So the best way, what I have understood from my experiences and by discussion with my peers and other experienced people, how to write a paper. First of all, is the most important is read the prior work in last few years. At least what I'll suggest, at least for last 3 to 5 years, you take out the papers relevant to the work what you are doing, read them. What those people have done, what have they concluded, what have they inferred. You should read that first of all. Then whatever work you have carried out, write a summary of your work. Bulletize the salient points. You make a list, okay? And in the list, you first of all write what is a novelty in your work, what is a value addition in your work, what is a conclusion in your work. You list down all the activities. That is the most important part. Just list out in a book. Then you question yourself: is something overlooked or something is left out? You should see, okay, I've done this work. It may happen that you have done some very good result, but you might have missed out something. You might have missed the connection. You're missing the flow of the work. There's no connectivity between your results and the theory. So you should question yourself. Okay, if I'm going to submit this paper, if some other person who is not aware of this work, he reads my paper, whether he'll understand it, whether he'll get the connectivity, he'll be able to connect to your work. So you should question yourself. Before the peers start questioning you, you should question yourself. Next is the comprehension. I already told comprehension should be very good. A person should understand because obviously he does not know about your work. It's the first time he's reading your work, so he should understand what you have written, what you're trying to imply, what you have inferred, what are the conclusions you're trying to present. Self-critic, that is very important. You should criticize yourself before the others, before giving chance to others rather. And the most important, what this is my experience. We should not try to write a paper in a very complicated or a what say Shashi Tharoor kind of language that nobody should understand, and you should not think, okay, I should write a very complicated and a stylish language so that person while just looking at the thing, okay, oh, it should be good, and then later on when he goes start going through the paper, usually what happens when the paper comes to a review board and the person starts reading, he will first read the abstract, okay, then he will read the introduction, and 80% of the time the paper gets rejected by reading just the abstract and the introduction. Okay. Now, sometime it may happen that you write it in such a fantastic abstract and introduction that person is forced to go through the paper. And when he goes through the paper, he finds out that the only language is good, but there is nothing substantial in that paper. That is very frustrating, and it will give a very bad impression of your work and you about you also. So what I suggest, write it in a very simple language and focus more on the technology, because we all are engineers, scientists, technologists. So we should focus more on the scientific aspects rather than the language. Language should be simple so that even a student can understand what you're trying to write in the paper. Because your aim of writing a paper should be that whoever reads a paper, he should benefit from that. So write it in a more simple language, and which has a very good comprehension, and it delivers your findings in a very crisp manner. So that is what I suggest how to write a paper. These points should be always thought of before you start writing a paper. And as per the IEEE or in general of any conference or anything, what are the different sections of a paper? So like this cartoon says, oh, I figure out after dedication, table of contents, preface, introduction, so on, so on, so on. I only have to write like 14 pages. That is true. Once you start writing in these sections, the number of pages goes on increasing and increasing. So that is another aspect what I like to come learn. But first of all, what is the sections of paper? So first one is the title. What is the title of the paper? Then comes your name or names and affiliations. Then comes the abstract. After that, introduction. Then your main body of the paper, which consists of the methodology, results, etc., etc. Then you have conclusions. Then you have references, followed by the acknowledgements and dedications, if any. Then some supporting or supplementary material like software codes, Excel results, and figures. Nowadays, IEEE has given you facility that you can put your supporting or supplementary materials as a section and a separate section which need not be published. It will be just available online. So that helps you in maintaining the total number of pages. Like I've already told, the number of pages are fixed. Like in a typical transaction of IEEE, you can have only 8 to 10 pages. After that, they start charging heavily, which we, at least in our part of continent, we cannot afford. So you should write your work very crisply and comprehensively in that particular number of pages. And whatever results you think, no, no, I'm not, I have to present the results as well. You can put it as a supplementary material separately. And you can mention, okay, these things are given the supporting material, one can refer to there. So instead of increasing the length of your pages, you put the extra material as a supplementary thing. So that will help you in maintaining the total number of pages, maintaining the sanity of your paper, okay, and keeping the number of pages within the limit. Now, how should you write a title and what is a title? Now, title is your basically a signature, okay? It tells, it should tell what is the innovation in your work, what is the application, where does it apply, what is the methodology you have adopted or you have derived or you're presenting, and how it is relevant to the particular society in which you're trying to publish your work. So if we take these examples, a few of my examples I've taken because these are few papers which for which I really struggled, and it took somewhere around 1 to 2 years to get this work published because nobody was there to teach me what I'm teaching you today. I learned it from my experience. So I'm just trying to share that. So now if you see this first one, so I'm saying, okay, it's a deterministic synthesis of wide scanning sparse concentric ring antennas array. So first one means it's a deterministic technology, which I'm presenting here, and it applies to wide scanning. So means it applies to wide scanning arrays, this work, and I'm talking about in this work on the sparse concentric ring antennas array. So by reading this title, one can make out what he can expect in this paper. So your title should be such that a person or a peer or a reviewer board can make out, okay, what is going to be in this paper, whether we should go ahead or we should reject it here itself. And sometimes what happens if your scope or the relevance to particular society is not evident from your title, then the person may reject it there itself. It may not be considered further also. Okay. Next is drone-based material transfer system in a robotic mobile fulfillment center. So by this title itself, one can make out, okay, it is based on some kind of a material transfer like Amazon and all, and it is in some robotic mobile fulfillment center where no manual intervention is required. That is based on a drone. So this title makes the work clear in itself. Similarly, when you come to this, so it says wide scanning characteristics of sparse phased array antennas using an analytical expression for directivity. So one can make out, okay, this work presents an analytical expression for directivity. This expression of directive is related to the sparse phased array antennas. Further, it can be applied to wide scanning antenna arrays. So this is how the title should be written. Okay. The title is your signature, and your signature is very important. All of you know that. Okay. The next thing is abstract. Okay. Now, abstract, it is your USP. What is a USP? Unique selling proposition. It sells your work. Okay. So abstract only will sell your work. If your abstract is not good, even though your work is good, it will be rejected. And it is a shortened picture of complete paper. Whatever you're going to present in a paper, it summarizes it in a very short and beautiful manner. So you should really spend a good time in writing an abstract. Okay. And like I have already told you that you should bulletize your work. So if you follow my methodology of bulletizing, abstract writing should not be difficult for you. Then this abstract should include some novelty, methodology, results, and application specific, which application or which area your work can write. Okay. So all these things should come in the abstract. So now let us take one example of this, suppose a drone-based transfer system. So how does it write? It says deploying unmanned aerial vehicles, also known as drones, for a final mile delivery in logistic operations. So one thing is clear, it is for the commercial applications. Okay. Next is one conceivable scenario is to use a drone to transfer jobs in robotic mobile fulfillment center. So area of application is clear. Hmm? Then each job might be characterized by origin, destination, time window, and precedence. So what are the consideration? Various considerations that person is considering in his paper, those are clear. Okay. Then approaches. Two exact approaches are proposed: a mixed integer programming and a constraint programming. So it is clear that these are the two techniques what this guy is using to conceptualize this drone-based material transfer system. So by just reading this abstract, you can make out, okay, what I'm going to get in this paper. Okay. Similarly, if we come to this one, wide scanning characteristics of a sparse phasor antenna using analytical expression of directivity. So you can say, okay, this paper presents a generalized analytical expression for directivity. So it is clear that you are going to see a generalized analytical expression for directivity in this paper. And it is for phased array antennas. Okay, so it is for phased array antennas. And it includes important design considerations like arbitrary element type, array geometry, complex excitations, coupling, etc. etc. Okay. So what are the considerations? It is clear. We also present an approximate expression for directivity. So what is another addition, value addition to this paper? That is clear. Now, what is the application? It is a design tool for predicting accurate locations of blind spots. So it can check the scan zone of your array, antenna array. Then it is also presenting the study on wide scan characteristic of a sparse phase array antenna. So you can see an abstract should give the application area, what is a technique or what is a design technique, what is the expression you're newly proposing here, or what are the various results you're going to propose here. So those all things should be clear from the abstract. So unless abstract is good, the reviewer board will not go further into your paper and read it. Here itself, if they don't like, they will reject the paper, although your work might be good. And you'll be wondering, okay, I've done such a good work, but why it got rejected? Okay. So the next is the introduction. What is an introduction? If you're meeting some new person who doesn't know you, you introduce yourself. Okay, and so, I'm from such a place. I have come to meet you regarding this. So that is an introduction, right? Hmm? Like it says, okay, let the reader know what wasn't known about your question before you started. But I didn't know any of it. I meant where the gaps in the literature are. So your introduction should introduce your problem. It should discuss the prior work related to your work, which has been done by you or other people in the past. You have to bridge the gap. What is the value addition in your work between the prior work to your work? What is the value you're adding to the particular technology or area? Then whatever work you're going to present in the paper, you have to present a summary of it in the introduction. And then last, you have to say a summary of the various sections, what are they in your paper. So if you see an example, so that is what we say, it's concentric ring antenna arrays or the arrangement, so and so. So that means this work is about the concentric ring antenna arrays. Okay. Now what is it? What is a concentric ring antenna? What is the technology used? We are talking about the thin and the space tapered arrays. So what is the thin and the space tapered arrays? We are describing very succinctly over here. Okay. Then you come, what are the prior work done in this area? So in general, the synthesis of sparse array is a complex so and so. So and the problem solved using different approaches like global search, deterministic, and all that. So you're discussing the prior work. What is the prior work done in this? Okay. Then you're saying in the prior work, the array factor of concentric antenna is represented using a Bessel function of first kind restricted to order 0. So you say, okay, in the prior work, the work was only limited to order 0, but that is not sufficient. That is what you have observed in your research. That is not sufficient. It does not give you the correct scan performance. So what you have done in the present work, you have given a generalized representation of array factor of CRA by considering the higher order modes of the Bessel function. That is the value addition you're doing. And what does it do? Based on that, you derive the design guidelines to design such antenna arrays. Huh? So you briefly tell your work. What is your work? What is the validation to the prior work? Then you say how the remaining papers are organized. So remaining papers are organized into various sections detailing the theoretical formulations, design guidelines, problem statement, design process. So you can see the whole paper summary is given here. My paper consists of a theory. It consists of design guidelines. What is the problem statement? What is a design process? What are the different numerical case studies you have presented to justify your work or validate your work, followed by the conclusions and the references in the last. So this is how an introduction should be written. So this is the next step. Once you clear the abstract, then the next step is introduction. So if you clear the abstract, you may get rejected in the introduction also. If introduction is not proper, here the reviewer will be seeing where he'll try to judge whether you read the previous work done by the other people or yourself or not. It is very important. He will see whether you have really done some effort when you're working, whether you're trying to put some validation or just for the it's just a project work where you're repeating the already done work by the other people and just repeating it for some school project or college project. So that those things you'll try to make out here. So introduction is very important, but where you can emphasize, okay, no, I have done a complete thorough study of previous work done by the other groups, and they have done so and so, this and this, and all this was, but they lagged or they missed this point. So I am working on this point, and I'm trying to fill the bridge between the gap, and I'm trying to improve the results further, or I'm trying to complement the earlier results. Or if you're giving some technique which presents a similar results as before presented by other people, but you are presenting those results by using different techniques. So that also you have to explain here. So that also becomes a contribution that results are same, but you're using a different technique to present same results. So that also is a good work, research work. So these all things or these all aspects should be covered in introduction. Now comes the main body. So once you have cleared these two steps, then the associate editor or the chief editor, he selects your work. Okay, now this work can be sent to the reviewers. They don't want to waste time of the reviewers because everybody is busy and it's not a paid job. Everybody takes out uh, time out of their busy schedule to read the papers. Okay, so they don't want to waste their time by sending the junk papers. So after this, two steps are cleared, you pass, then your paper is sent to the reviewer board. The reviewer board, after going through your abstract introduction, will come to the main body. Now, what does the main body consist of? It consists of the theoretical formulation. It consists of the problem statement. What is the problem you're addressing in your paper? What is the methodology you're proposing, or what is the hypothesis you're giving? Then what are the design proposed, or what are the solutions we are discussing in the terms of some graphs, figures, tables, flowcharts? Because everything cannot be put in the term of language. You have to validate, and language does not imply sometimes the minute findings or observations. So those things can be only represented when you put some graphs, figures, or tables or flowcharts. Then only it becomes illustrative and more clarity is being obtained by the reader who's going through your work. Then if some experiments are there, you can discuss those experiments as well and some results and how it is validating your hypothesis, your design technique. Okay. Then discussion or conclusion that how this work can be further enhanced or something, and then the supplementary material. Now, so the main body consists of a theoretical formulation. We're giving the theory, then you're giving what is the coordinate system you're adopting, what is the geometry you're considering, what are the results, then what are the different numerical case studies you have taken, what are the results you obtained. So all these things forms a part of the main body. Now we come to the conclusion. This is another important aspect, conclusion. So you have to summarize the outputs and the application. So some people may ask, okay, conclusion, what is the difference between the conclusion and the abstract? Okay, you people wondering that. So in abstract and the conclusion differences, in conclusion, you suggest the future scope of improvements. Okay, I have done this work, I've got these outputs, but how this can be further enhanced? Okay, you may be you're enhancing that work. So you can say, oh, I'm going working further on this work, and I'm going to enhance this work. and that will be presented in the coming articles of mine. Or you can suggest the readers that okay, you people can extend this work further in this directions, which I couldn't do because of some so and so reason, whatever is your reason. You need not mention that, but you can suggest, give your suggestions. So that is how the conclusion is different from abstract. In abstract, you don't give suggestions. In abstract, you just tell what you have done. But in conclusion, you suggest based on your work how this work can be further improved. So if you see one of the examples, so we say, okay, this paper analyzes the problem of synthesizing a wideband, and a highly sparse CRA deterministically. So it presents a work which has this feature of wide scanning, wide bandwidth, but deterministically. It means it's not using any iterative technique or something which is very time consuming. Okay. Now the Bessel function characteristics are utilized to derive a generalized expression of our effector for CRAs and in proposing the design guidelines for the synthesis. So you have used Bessel functions to derive the expression which is used to propose a design guidelines for the synthesis of such arrays. Now, another thing what I like to also mention is about the abbreviations. Obviously, these abbreviations you have to mention in the first occurrence of these observations. Okay. So mostly in the introduction part itself, you have to bring out all the abbreviations what you're going to use in your paper to control the length. So abbreviation is another important aspect which you should take care. And you should not abbreviate everything. You should only abbreviate the relevant or some important things only. Everything you cannot abbreviate to cut down the length of the paper. That becomes, it loses the comprehension. Okay. So that also needs to be taken care of. So the need to incorporate higher order Bessel function array factor to synthesize CRA with minimally non-symmetric azimuthal pattern and possessing low Saitov level of complete scan volume and operational bandwidth is demonstrated, which is ignored in earlier publications. Okay, so what is the value addition? The numerical test case of so-and-so wideband widescan isophoric and with low Saitov level demonstrates the effectiveness of the proposed deterministic design. Okay, and this also presents some 6 and 5 ring CRS and so on. Now, the proposed deterministic guidelines may strongly aid in formulating an optimization methodology using stochastic techniques for the realization of an optimal CRA design with the minimal computational resources, especially for the phased array antenna with large electrical apertures. So, this is a suggestion what you're making. You're saying that your whatever work you've carried out, it can be combined with some stochastic techniques like genetic algorithms, particle swarm, for further optimizing or for getting a further more optimal solution of this design with minimal computational resources. This is our suggestion you're giving. You may do it yourself, and other who's working can also use your work to do that. Okay, so this is a suggestion. So you can see what is the difference between the conclusion and abstract. Now, the another important thing is references. This is also a very important part of your paper. First of all, when you choose the references, they should have the relevance to your work. You should not use irrelevant references just to increase the number or count. Okay. And the references should be recent. Like suppose I'm talking about a genetic algorithm. The genetic algorithm was discovered somewhere in 70s or 80s. So you should not give only the reference in 80s. Recently, whatever work is done in 2020 related to genetic algorithm, you should prefer that and you should tell, okay, this work is the latest work which has been done. I'm enhancing this work in this way or another way. So that reference should be brought here. You should not, what sometimes may happen, okay, some work is already done in recent years. You repeat that work in some other way, present it, and you just miss that reference intentionally. Okay, no, some review board should not go through the reference, otherwise say that my work is not original. But it is not no, it is not so. It does not happen like that. Today, we have so many softwares in which your paper has been put to check the plagiarism and all. I'll come to that point later on, and you will be caught. So I just want to warn you. So that is always safe to use the recent references and show the relevance to your work and how your work is better than that or complement that work. Okay. Connectivity with the present work, that is obvious. Whatever references you are giving, they should be connected to your work. It should not be out of a blue moon. You should take out some reference and put it just to increase the count. So no unnecessary own or other references just to increase the citation count and number of references shall be added. And specific format as per the type of publication you have to follow. So like if you see the IEEE, there's a particular format. There's a format in how a book should be referred. There's a format in how paper should be referred. Then there's a format for the conferences also. I'm not able to see here. I think some conferences also there which I have referred, like this one. So this is a patent, how the patent should be referred. So these are the different formats which are being specified by each journal. You have to take that format and write your publication in that format only. So this is another important part, which is references. Now we come to acknowledgement. It is always necessary to acknowledge the help you've taken from someone if you have. If no, then it's okay. Don't no need to acknowledge. But if you have taken help, somebody has supported you in any person, any group or establishment, you should acknowledge them. Any financial assistance, any work you've done out of some project, support, technical support from some group or establishment, you should always acknowledge that. Any experimental assistance, okay, you've done some theory, but experiments have been done by some other person which helped you, you should acknowledge that also. Even if somebody has helped you in improving the language of your paper, in proofreading, that also you can acknowledge. So acknowledgement is always good. So these are the different body or contents of the paper, what what are there and how you should write those contents and how you should consider those sections, what are the various considerations. Now I'll come to some do's and don'ts. So first, very important, never hurry to submit a paper. Read your paper repeatedly, write it, rinse your mouth, take a break, go around, again come, again read it, and repeat the cycle. I will suggest you should do it multiple times, at least 10 times. Read your paper, check your writing, see if you missed out something, whatever the points I given earlier about self-assessment and all those things you should take care. So never hurry to submit a paper. Oh no, I have to submit a paper today itself. No, take your time. Even I will say sometimes I personally take more than 1 month to write one paper. And for the example what I given you here, it took me around 3 months to write that paper in breaks. So never hurry. This is the first thing which stop you from being successful in publishing your paper. That is if you are hurrying. You are in a hurry to submit a paper. So never do that. Next thing is don't get depressed. Take the rejections and comments positively. So first time you're publishing a paper, it gets rejected. Don't be depressed. Download the comments, put them somewhere, take a break, again go and read those comments. Why the reviewer has rejected your paper? Just read those comments carefully. Refer to your paper. Okay, whatever reviewer is saying, what is the relevance? Why he has said so? Read it. Take it positively. Because I will tell you my personal suggestion. My paper got rejected 2 times. I read through all the comments. Based on that comments, I again corrected my work, did the value addition, submit the paper, and third time it got published. So comments of the reviewers only help me to improve the quality of my paper and get it published. So always take rejections and comments positively. Don't get depressed and "No, I cannot write a paper, it's IEEE, I cannot publish in IEEE. Never think of that. Always take it positively. That comments are only going to help you in improving your work and telling you where you are wrong, where what are the points you missed out. Okay. This is a very important part which I like to say. Avoid plagiarism. Now, plagiarism can be intentional. Intentionally you are plagiarizing, or you are plagiarizing without knowing it. Sometimes when you're reading a lot of work, some things get stuck in your mind and you just put, when you're writing, you put them in the paper. So that is a plagiarism which you're doing unknowingly. That also should be avoided. Okay, cheating is never allowed. And nowadays, there are a lot of softwares like this cross-reference, similarity check, and there are other softwares available which every publisher is using to check the plagiarism. And if you are typically more than 20% of plagiarism is not accepted, and if you plagiarism ratio exceeds like 60%, 50%, it may lead to blacklisting you for next 3 to 5 years. You cannot publish in that particular journal for next 5 years. and it gives you bad name also, because next time also, even after 5 years, we are submitting a paper, knows, okay, this is the guy who plagiarized. Okay, so never do that. Never do that. It's better to publish only one paper in 5 years rather than plagiarizing and sending multiple papers in a year. I will strongly say warn you against the plagiarism, even in the conferences also. And if you are intentionally using some figure, you have to acknowledge that to take prior permission from that person that I want to use this particular work of yours in my paper. You take the permission, then use it. And that is usually allowed only in the review articles. Review articles, it is allowed, but with proper permissions, which you need to sort from that particular person. Okay. So with this, I like to conclude my talk on authorship. And in end, I'll not say thank you and all. I'll just like to say, don't limit your challenges. Challenge your limits. Okay. Challenge your limits. Don't get publish more. Publish a lot of work. Bring a lot of praise to our country also. People should say, okay, India also, we are doing a lot of good work and we are very good in writing and explaining our work. So we should think from that aspect and try to publish your work, not just to increase the count of your work, but to present some very good work which is praised and being used by others. Okay. Thank you so much. And now I'm open for the questions if any are there.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh sir. We have quite a lot of questions and we have a good participation also today. So
Okay,
let me go on to the questions. So first one is, what is the difference between overview paper, fabrication, and experiment paper?
overview paper is, like I told you, it's a review article. So that work may not be done by you, but you're reviewing a particular technology. Like suppose I want to talk about the metamaterials. Okay, so in metamaterial, area of metamaterial, these are the all kind of work which have been carried out in last few 5 to 6 years. So you can summarize that work and present that, like I told, with the proper permissions. If you're referring some other guy work, you have to take the prior permission. With the permissions being sought, you can uh, write a very nice review article. And usually this review article has been written by a person who's really experienced and has done a lot of work in a similar uh, area. Then only he can write that review article. Other one you are talking about is application, right? What was it I missed out? Next thing is application, right?
Overview paper, fabrication, and experiment paper.
Okay, fabrication experiment means, okay, like fabrication, like nowadays we're talking about the additive manufacturing. So in additive manufacturing, you're coming up with a new technology how to manufacture a particular antenna or particular prototype. So that can also form a paper. So that is the fabricational aspect. Then results means, okay, suppose I'm working on some phenomena like superconductors, okay, and I come up with a new superconducting material which is giving a very good results to me. It is critical temperatures gone down, and I can say like if I'm making a resonator out of a superconducting metal, I'm getting an quality effect of the order of 10 to the power 8. So that becomes an experimental novelty which you can publish. So that forms a experimental work. So this is the difference between the overview, fabricational, and experimental papers. So there you can only publish your experimental results. You need not tell about the theoretical aspects. You can just briefly mention what is the area in which you've done the experiments and what are the results. Okay.
Okay.
I hope I'm clear.
Yeah. So the next question is, can we use acronyms in title?
Uh, Sorry, what can we use? Acronyms.
Yeah.
You can only use acronyms if it is really well established with respect to IEEE terminologies. Like suppose IEEE say, okay, I don't remember, like something which IEEE has got in its list of abbreviation which are well known, like GA. Okay, GA everybody knows that's a genetic algorithm. So such acronyms you can use, but you cannot use new acronyms. I personally say you should not use any acronyms in the title. That is my suggestion. You can use, but it should be well known to everyone.
Okay. So next one is, how many references can be included in review paper, work paper?
And there's no Like there's only limit in the conferences and letters on the references. Like in conferences or a letters, like particularly if you're talking about the electronic letters, you can only write maximum 5 references. But in transactions, there's no limit on the references. You can even go for 40 references, and if it's a review article, I've seen people have even putting somewhere around 60, 70 references also. There's no limit. The only limit on the references is in the short communications and letters only, because that there's a page limit, strict page limit is there, and in the conferences also. So they shouldn't go more than 5 or 6 references.
Okay. So next one is, I think it's mostly about using different softwares for writing the paper. So do you suggest any softwares, or can we redo the work using different softwares? I have a couple of questions which are actually the same thing about software for writing the paper.
For checking the grammar, there's a software like Grammarly is there. Then for plagiarism, there are a lot of softwares. Like I tell Crossref, one of the one this is there, and there's some other software which even like IEEE has got its own plagiarism software. You can put your work in that software before submitting it finally. It will just check the plagiarism and give you the report. So IEEE itself has got one thing which you can refer. And the writing means you want formatting, or you're talking about right?
Yeah, both. I think it's they have asked for writing also. We have got a question also for formatting. We have got a
See,
question.
for
So
formatting, IEEE gives the templates in the LaTeX as well as in the Word. So you can just take those templates and use them. That those templates are self-explanatory, which even I use them. You have to you can use them. And but about the writing, I don't think any such software is there which can write a paper for you. That you have to do yourself only. Nobody will write the paper for you. Yeah, but for grammar checking, for templates, everything is available in even in IEEE resources are there, which you can take.
and I think for plagiarism also they have asked for the software tools.
Plagiarism, a lot of tools are there, and as I told, IEEE itself has got a plagiarism tool which you can use before submitting your work.
Okay. I think that's about the questions we have. So thank you so much, sir, for the great talk. We have got a lot of congratulatory messages for our talk, saying that people have been waiting for a presentation like this, which clearly explains various aspects of paper writing. So I think Chandrakant sir, do you have anything else to say? If you want to say a few words, please do so, because today is the last day of the workshop and we'll be concluding the workshop from today. So Chandrakant sir, a few words from your side.
Uh, Thank you, Dr. Ashutosh, for a very
My
nice
pleasure.
talk. And I can see in the chat box there is a lot of appreciations for this one, and some people are suggesting that they're awaiting this sort of a presentation for quite a long time. And actually everybody has a takeaway from this talk. And what I take forward from this talk, one very interesting point that it struck me very this one, spur intellectual debate within yourself. Okay, that is the basic of writing a paper. Means you do some work, but when you start putting them into words and in the black and white, then we realize that many things are yet to be done to understand the full phenomena, and then only you'll go into this one, and your work goes to a different level. That I can assure you. And thank you very much, Ashutosh, for Dr. Ashutosh, for bringing out these nice aspects.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And people, there is a very good participations also, and I think you have all of you whoever participated in this workshop has taken some few points at least to for your churning over the next few this one. And if you need any sort of help, something very small, this one we can always we are always available. You can reach out to us. And thank you very much for your support. And thank you all the speakers from Altier, Dr. Ashutosh yesterday, Dr. Sarkar. It's a very wonderful thing to have, and it's a great pleasure in completing one such workshop, 6 days workshop. It's not a simple job, I understand, And full credit goes to K-Tipriya and Mahesh in coordinating all these activities, and I am only in supporting role. Sometime I come, sometime some things I resolve, that's all. So all credit goes to them and the speakers. So thank you, all of you, speakers as well as the organizer. And that's all from my side.
So just information to all the participants. I have posted the feedback form link in the chat box. So once you fill the feedback form, it will take us a week to get your certificates done. I'll also be sending the same link in the mail also, so you can fill the form, and only when you fill the form, we'll be able to give you the certificate. So that is, so I'll just post the link again in the chat box. So please fill it and give us 1 week to 10 days time to generate your certificates, and that will be shared to your mail. So, and thank you all the participants for being with us for 6 days, and it was a great workshop, and we hope to see you all in the forthcoming workshops. So with this, I think we can close the session. Chandrakant sir, can we close the session?
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you all the participants. Thank you for your active participations, and wish you all the best for your future research. And thank you all the speakers, and specifically Dr. Ashutosh, who is present here today, and as I told, KPP and Mahesh. With this, we are closing the workshop for now. So we'll be we'll be connecting you again with some different type of activities or workshop, or maybe we'll try to get some physical workshop or this one meetings going if the things are improving, COVID situation is improving. So we are looking forward to that. And with this, we are saying bye-bye to all the participants as well as the speakers. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you all.
Thank you.